If you're looking for your next fantasy read with a great magic system, fantastic characters, terrific world building, then this is going to be the book for you. Stay tuned. So I've recently finished reading One Dark Window and Two Twisted Crowns by Rachel Gillig, and let me tell you now, this book was a really pleasant surprise. It was absolutely fantastic, magical, the lot. But obviously, if you don't believe me, we're going to use this video to break it down for you so you can decide whether you're actually going to read it or not. So let's get into it. We're going to start with the premise of the book, spoiler free, obviously. We're going to go through what kind of book it is, so like the genre, the tropes, spice levels, if it's a romantasy, obviously, some strengths and weaknesses, how good the book is, what it did well, what it didn't do so well maybe, and any other recommendations or any other points in the book that's worth mentioning without giving spoilers. So One Dark Window and Two Twisted Crowns by Rachel Gillig is a duology. It's completely finished. We start with the FMC female main character, who's Elspeth, and we find out she's living in the world of Blunder. Blunder is plagued by this dark infected magic that's been around for hundreds and hundreds of years, and that also Elspeth is infected. And we also find out that she spent the last 11 years with an ancient being that's trapped inside her mind that she refers to as the Nightmare. And the Nightmare acts as kind of like her protector. One day, while Elspeth is traveling home, she meets this highwayman and everything changes, because of course it does. And she joins this dangerous quest to try and cure the kingdom from the dark magic that's infecting it. But the kicker is that the highwayman she just met, who we know as Raven, also happens to be the king's nephew and the head of the king's guard, who is tasked with eliminating all infected people from Blunder. So he's essentially a massive traitor. The unique magic system is in the form of Providence cards, of which there are 12 different ones. You can basically wield the magic that's on the card. As part of the lore in Blunder, once one single person collects all 12 different Providence cards and does some sort of ritual with it, they are then able to free Blunder from the dark magic. Elspeth and Raven must then work together to collect all of the cards to try and save their kingdom. But as the stakes get higher, we also actually find out that Elspeth is forced to confront this very scary thought that the Nightmare is slowly starting to take over her mind. The genre for it is basically a dark gothic romantasy, gothic fiction type of book. So if you're into that sort of thing, those sorts of genres, you might like this book. So the tropes within this book, you have enemies to lovers, but I wouldn't say that it's a real enemies to lovers because it felt a little bit too easy. There's also the forced proximity, like fake dating trope. There's also found family, political intrigue. In terms of spice, it's not as explicit as like Akatar, but it was still good enough for it to not be young adult, if that makes sense. I didn't think so anyway, so I would firmly put the spice level at like 3. It's got a really unique magic system. The world building is actually top tier, and for me, I actually found the pacing to be really, really good. So much so that I was hooked after 20 pages. And that usually never happens because it takes me a while to get into any book, not just fantasy or romantasy. It didn't get boring after the first book, is all I'll say. It actually, in fact, was a little bit more interesting the second book. There's a really, really good villain in this, and the way that everything comes together, like the backstories of the main characters, even the side characters, I think actually, in fact, that one of the best parts about this book, apart from the magic system, are the characters and the side characters as well. Just how much thought and how much progression they go through from the first book to the next one was really, really well done. I thought as well that there were some parts of this book, especially in book 1, because it's trying to introduce you to the lore and the story and everything behind the Providence cards and who made them. But I found some of the poems and the quotes that start the beginning of each chapter to be slightly repetitive. But I guess it was just to keep reiterating like what the cards are and what the history behind them actually is. So it's not too bad. I haven't read tons and tons of fantasy books, but I would say that out of all of the ones I have read, it's the most unique one in my opinion. I really enjoyed the ending. I thought it was a really satisfying way to round up the entire story. So yeah, if you are going to read one fantasy book, actually make that 2 because you need to read both books. If you're going to read 2 books, this month, you better make it this duology. And there you have it. So let me know if you're going to read this book or not, based on whatever you watched in this video. I'm hoping that my next one is going to be on a thriller that I actually saw everywhere on BookTok and Bookstagram, really. It was quite a popular one, and it was one of those where I thought, is it really worth the hype? And that next book is going to be We Used to Live Here by Marcus Cleaver. So if you want to find out more about that one, then come back for the next one. Thanks for watching.